Everyone, this is Joe Russo. I'm one of the partners at Granite Law Group. We do catastrophic injury all the way to simple motor vehicle collision cases. We're based in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, right on the border. And I wanted to take a couple of minutes and share with you a quick video about health insurance liens. There's a lot of confusion when people are involved in motor vehicle accidents where they're under the impression, I didn't do anything wrong, I'm not the at-fault driver, why should my insurance pay for my medical expenses? That's just the way the system works. There's two exceptions to that rule. In the state of New Hampshire, it's called MedPay. In the state of Massachusetts, it's called PIP, Personal Injury Protection. Let's take one at a time. In New Hampshire, you have the option of getting additional coverage called MedPay. It costs a little bit extra in your premium. That MedPay is going to cover, typically it's in an increment of $5,000 to $10,000 of your medical expenses. That money is non-subrogatable because you paid extra for that coverage throughout the duration of time that you've been covered by this auto insurance company and you're paying your premiums. That means that when it comes time to settle your case with the insurance company for the at-fault driver, what we call the bodily injury or the BI carrier, the MedPay carrier, your auto insurance company, because MedPay runs through your auto insurance company, doesn't get paid back. All right, that's the way MedPay works. The way personal injury protection works is a little bit different. Personal injury protection is mandatory in the state of Massachusetts. Auto insurance is mandatory in the state of Massachusetts. And it also is two different increments. It's an increment of $2,000 or it's an increment of $8,000. So when you're involved in an accident and you're a Massachusetts resident and now you have PIP, Personal Injury Protection, if you have private health insurance, the first $2,000 of your medical expenses is going to be paid out through the PIP carrier, your auto insurance carrier, and then the rest of your bills get paid out through your private health insurance, whether it's Blue Cross Blue Shield, Harvard Pilgrim, whatever. If you have public health insurance, Medicare, that's federal, Medicaid, that's state. If you have that, the first $8,000 in medical expenses is going to be covered by the PIP carrier through your auto insurance policy. So what's the difference between the $2,000 and what's the difference between the $8,000? The way the system is set up in Massachusetts is the system would rather put the burden of having the expenses paid by the private health insurance companies versus the public health insurance companies. So only $2,000 is going to go through PIP, and then the rest goes through your private health insurance companies, whereas if you have public health insurance, that's going to be the full $8,000 going through PIP. Now, the difference also when it comes to PIP and MedPay is that PIP is subrogatable, meaning when you have done treating and it comes time to settle your case and you go to the insurance company for the at-fault driver, what we call the BI carrier, you say, now I want to settle my case, and they say, okay, well, you have PIP. We're going to take an offset of what the PIP carrier paid out to cover those bills out of the settlement that we're going to give you. All right. And the BI at-fault insurance company reimburses the PIP carrier. And sometimes the BI tries to get cute, and sometimes they'll assume that there's a full $8,000 offset. That's not always the case. They do that to try to reduce what they would end up paying you for a settlement. So that's the first layer, whether there's MedPay or whether there's PIP. The second layer is now your health insurance kicks in, okay, whether it's MedPay or whether it's PIP. Now your health insurance is kicking in. And you go to the emergency room. The emergency room bills your health insurance company, whether it's Blue Cross, whether it's Harvard Pilgrim, whether it's Medicare or Medicaid, and there's a diagnostic code for MVC, or MVA, motor vehicle crash, motor vehicle accident. And when those bills get submitted to the health insurance company, whether it's public or private, it sets off a red flag in their system. And they're saying to themselves, I wonder if there's a lawsuit. I wonder if there's someone else that is responsible for these bills, because they want to get reimbursed, okay? They want to get subrogated. They want to get paid back. And so it's when the health insurance company receives that diagnostic code, it sets off a red flag in their system. It triggers a letter to get submitted to the patient, the insured party who's receiving the health insurance coverage. And essentially the letter says, do you have an attorney? Is there another insurance company involved? And they want that information so they could assert a lien on the case. So when it comes time to settle the case, before the attorney is able to disperse funds to the client, they have to make sure that the lien holder is paid back, all right? If it is a private health insurance company, they have to perfect the lien. They have to send out that letter. If it's a public health insurance, like Medicare or Medicaid, the lien is automatic. The attorney actually has an obligation to set up an account through an online portal system and let them know that there's a case going, that there's a case happening, and so they can get reimbursed when the case is done. Now, this is a very important distinction to understand. If you go to a doctor's office, if you go to a hospital and you say that you're injured and you say that you have a certain health insurance, if the hospital or doctor's office accepts that health insurance, they have a contract with that health insurance company that essentially says that the health insurance company has the right to adjust or negotiate down the bill, okay? So the health insurance company says, well, this bill is outrageous, it's too high, it shouldn't cost this amount of money for these treatments. And the doctor's office says, well, this is what the treatments cost, and they play this cat and mouse game. So the medical provider tries to get as much reimbursement as they can, but they know that they're contractually agreeing to ostensibly accept whatever the health insurance company pays them. That's called an adjustment. So let's use some round figures. Say you go to an emergency room and your bills are $10,000. Those bills would get submitted to, let's say, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Blue Cross Blue Shield typically is going to pay 40 cents on the dollar. So they're probably going to pay $4,000 to satisfy those bills. The patient is not responsible for the difference. The patient's just responsible for meeting their co-pays and deductibles. Essentially, the hospital eats that $6,000 that they're not reimbursed, which is why they typically go really high, because they know they're going to receive an adjustment and get a payment that's drastically lower than what they're charging. Now, this is how that scenario impacts you if you're involved in a motor vehicle crash. When it comes time to submit those bills to the at-fault driver's insurance company, the BI carrier, bodily injury, they reimburse or they credit you for your pain and suffering, your lost wages, if you have a permanent injury, and also your medical expenses. What they pay you for is the gross amount of the bills. At least that's what they should pay you for. Do not let an insurance adjuster, and typically it's the younger insurance adjusters that try to push this issue, don't let them explain to you that your health insurance lien is only a fraction of the bills that you submitted to us, and so we're only going to give you reimbursement for what the health insurance needs to get paid back. That's nonsense, because when if the case has to go into court, there's something called the collateral source rule, where all the bills get submitted to a jury. And the jury is instructed to, if you find that the bills are associated with the crash, give the client full credit and don't worry about whether or not there's any insurance or anything like that that will get sorted out in the background. So a jury never finds out if you have Medicare, Medicaid, if you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, Harvard Pilgrim, etc. So when it comes time to settle the case, you get to pocket the difference. You know, if it's $10,000 and the lien is 4, you're going to get credit for 10 grand. You pay back 4 to satisfy the health insurance lien. And typically, the health insurance lien is negotiable, all right? And the way that works is, if you injured yourself in your own house or apartment and you fell in your kitchen and you went to the emergency room and you say, I have Blue Cross Blue Shield, Blue Cross Blue Shield would get billed for the medical treatment that you receive. They wouldn't get paid anything back. They only get paid something back if you recover for a claim, if someone else is paying you a settlement. And they view it as double dipping. That's why they assert the lien. But if you're not getting reimbursed from anyone, they can't assert a lien. There is no lien. It doesn't exist. And in order for you, the patient or the client, to go out and obtain that settlement, typically you have to retain an attorney, someone like me. And we work on a contingency fee basis. Our contingency fee is 1/3 of the settlement. So ostensibly, we're acting as a debt collector for the health insurance company to make sure that their lien is paid back. So then we go to the health insurance company, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we say, okay, your lien is $4,000, but my client is giving up 1/3 of his or her settlement to retain me, and I'm doing your work by recouping your lien. So I'm going to have you reduce your lien down by the same 1/3 that my client had to reduce his recovery by retaining me. And it's an equitable doctrine. And so that's how this whole situation works with health insurance, liens, MedPay, and PIP. But the most important factor is, if you try to negotiate with an insurance company, the BI carrier, especially if you don't have an attorney, they try to get slick. And oftentimes they'll give you misinformation about what you're entitled to recover, and they try to take advantage. So it's always good to retain an attorney to understand fully what your rights are. So if you have any questions you want to run by me about health insurance, MedPay, PIP, how the lien works, how liens are negotiated down, I'd be happy to chat with you. I'll leave a link in the comments for you to contact the firm. And thanks so much for your time. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and take care.